What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got news about the Uta Starter Deck. Now, the news of the Uta Starter Deck is very, very important. This is a new starter deck, of course. I say new starter deck. It's a starter deck coming out over in Japan that is a product that kind of didn't exist before. But the Uta Starter Deck, although there's been a lot of new cards in a lot of these starter decks, the Uta one is going to be largely reprints, not entirely reprints. We have already seen a couple of new cards. There's a new Charlotte Katakuri, for instance. There's a new super rare Shanks, which is confirmed and coming along and all of that. There are some new cards, but it's largely going to be a reprint deck. But that's actually kind of fine. And it's honestly good. Because there is an issue with Uta. Now, you may have forgotten, but Uta actually won the Japan Championships last season. It was the champion deck in Japan. It's a very good deck. The problem is with Uta, that was largely a reprint deck, as in most of the cards there were just reprinted from, well, actually OPO2. Honestly, pretty much all from OPO2. We had the really good cards like Brook, for instance, and Luffy and all of that. The thing is, there were some new cards. We had a super rare Uta character, and then we had free event cards, which are really very, very good with Uta, specifically. Outside of Uta, they're trash garbage, but with Uta, they're pretty good. They're only available in Starter Deck 11. That made Starter Deck 11 honestly kind of annoying, because if you wanted to play Uta, it wasn't just the leader, it was these as well, so you kind of had to buy 2 copies, and it made it a little bit awkward. But then they made it so much worse, because they had the Uta release event. Okay. And then they had a bunch of promos with it. Now, there were free reprinted cards, i.e. just the free event cards of Starter Deck 11 were reprinted. But then there were 5 brand new cards. There were 5 cards that fit really well with Uta that were only made available if you went to this event. And in the West, we got one of the 8 cards at random. It was a whole thing. We did a video about it. It turned into a big issue. And it meant trying to get hold of these cards was honestly kind of annoying. And it meant that when the tournament ended, these promos just kind of weren't out there anymore. And this was, I think it's fair to say, less than ideal. Well, wonderful news, ladies and gentlemen. They're all coming back. Now, I will say for disclosure, the price of these promo cards has not actually risen particularly much. They are affordable, and in Japan, they weren't that difficult to get hold of. In the West, they were a real pain. The price has fallen down quite nicely, largely because nobody's really playing Uta at the moment. But with the new Uta deck, couple of new cards and all of that, we don't like the situation, regardless of what the secondary market price is right now. We don't like the situation where we have these cards that could be good, and again, One Japan Nationals, this is not a bad deck, and then all of a sudden they're just not particularly available. That is a little bit of a problem. So what they've gone and done is they've just gone and reprinted all of these cards, all the promos at least, in the set. In this starter deck, the new starter deck, new Uta starter deck, they've gone and reprinted them. What's even better than that, although that is a pretty good start, let's be clear. What is even better than that, they've done it with alternate art, which I know a lot of people, you get the good news and they go, look, they're reprinting these cards, right? The cards that we want, they're being reprinted, this is wonderful. And that makes a lot of people go, yeah, but what about my old cards? Like, I went to all this effort to try and get them. Now they're just being reprinted. They're devaluing my cards. No, they're not. It's fine. Because they're actually going ahead and giving us alternate art of them. And I think this is wonderful. As a side note, I don't believe they are reprinting Promo 61. That is the Luffy. I don't believe that one's actually coming back. It's a vanilla Luffy, but it's powerful and it's a film type card, and there is an argument that that is a card we might want in some places, so just hold your horses a little bit there. But we have got reprints of a bunch of them, and this is very, very nice. So, for instance, we've got the starter deck cards. So we've got ourselves a reprint of backlight with alternate artwork. The 2-cost card main. If your leader is Uta, you can either rest one of your opponent's characters of a cost of 5 or less, or KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 5 or less. Decent card, one we might want to use. We have a reprint of New Genesis, the 1-cost card. And that's the main if your leader is Uta. I told you these cards are trash if you're not playing Uta, but they're pretty good if you are. Then you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, find a film card other than New Genesis, add it to your hand, and then put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order, and then set one of your Don to active. So it's actually a free card. Like, you've got to have a Don open, but then you play it, rest a Don to play it, and then activate it after you've played it. It just basically for nothing lets you find a film card. And bearing in mind, your Uta leader, the skill is, if the top card of your deck is a film card, draw it. You basically do want to have the vast majority, if not all of your deck, being film cards. They've gone and reprinted the only other starter deck event card, and that is your I'm Invincible, and that's your free cost. As a main, you set your Uta leader to active. Really cool because, of course, you can whack a whole bunch of Don on. And then if you make yourself active, you get a second use of all the Don you've attached, which is cool. You don't get a second use of your leader skill because your leader skill is once per turn. But you can double up on any Don attached, for instance. And as a trigger, up to one of your leader or character cards gains 1,000 power during this turn. Those are starter deck cards that were available in the starter deck previously, but now they're coming back, and I think this is pretty cool. But then we get the promos. So we've got promo 57, Fleeting Lullaby. That is the free cost card. As a main, if your leader is Uta, seriously, they're only good for Uta. Up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters of a cost of 4 or less will not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. And it does the same thing as a trigger, so it just stops characters being usable, which I personally think is kind of funny. We've then got promo 58, which is Where the Wind Blows, 2 cost. As a main, if your leader is Uta, then you set all of your film type characters to active at the end of this turn, i.e. any blockers are ready to block again, and any characters that were rested and i.e. liable to be attacked, you can only attack rested characters, become active and are no longer valid targets. And as a trigger, you set all your film type characters to active, which incidentally happens immediately. So if your opponent is in the middle of an attack and they're getting ready to attack a rested character with their next attack, this will then set all your film characters to active and potentially take away an attack on which your opponent was relying, which I find kind of funny. We've got promo 59, that is the world's continuation, the counter. If your leader is Uta, you may return any number of characters on your field to the owner's hand. And up to one of your leader or character cards gains 2,000 power during this battle for every returned character. Not one you want to do all the time, but to give you an option for one very big swing, a very cool card. And then promo 60, the last one of them, that is your Tot Musica, 2 cost, and as a main, you can rest an Uta card, character or leader, either's fine, to rest up to 2 of your opponent's Don cards. Take away some of their options. If you think they're holding an event card in their hand that they're going to use to annoy you, you can use this to take away their Don such that they're no longer able to do so. The fact that and that is all the promos incidentally, other than the vanilla Luffy. The fact that all of these promos are coming back is a big deal, because these are cards that haven't been readily available. They've been a pain to get hold of. And admittedly, like I've said, the secondary market price hasn't really been reflecting this. But they've been cards that haven't been readily available, and when you have cards that haven't been readily available, it's very easy for them to become a little bit of a problem when a deck gets a little bit of a boost. Having them be reprinted here is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing, and I am frankly a gigantic fan. I love this, and frankly, you guys should love this too. Anytime awkward cards are made more available is good. Anytime we have reprints of cards that were a pain, that is a good thing. As a side note, we do have a brand new card coming in the deck as well, and let's face it, we're talking about Starter Deck 16, we might as well pop that in here. We've got a 2 cost Monkey D. Luffy, 2 cost, 3,000 power, counter plus 2,000. And if you have a rested Uta on the field, this character gains 1,000 power. And honestly, if you're playing Uta, you should have a rested Uta on the field, even if it's only a leader. So it's a 2 cost, 4,000 power, counter plus 2,000. It's a vanilla character in terms of stats, but it's counter plus 2k rather than counter plus 1k. I cannot be the only one that thinks that's good. So yeah, there's a brand new monkey to Luffy, which might fit quite nicely into the film deck as well. We hadn't talked about it, so I figured it was, time to have a little chat about it now. But we have had a little chat about it now, so now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about that Uta deck. Tell me what you think about these reprints. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at Lawasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wassy Plays.